Hi, this is Donna Cruz. I'm the CEO of Savvy Technologies, and I'm chatting today with John Gonzalez. John is the Director of Mobility Services for Wireless Watchdogs.
Donna, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, John. So, John and I are doing a four-part series on managed mobility services. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the expense management aspect of managed mobility services. And this is a piece that everyone's interested in. This is the money piece. It's about bills, plans, and lowering spend. So, John, first question. In your own words, what is expense management in this mobility sector, and why is it more than just auditing a bill?
Sure. Yeah. So expense management, from the carrier's perspective, is really understanding, controlling, and optimizing all mobile costs based on usage. Okay. What we see is a lot of times that, they'll come in with unlimited plans and patch everybody on unlimited. But if you take a look at it, we use the 80/20 rule. 80% of companies are not even close to be using any unlimited. The other 20% are. So it's really about knowing how to optimize those plans with what you have available at the lowest cost option. Now, a caveat to expense management, uh, based on what we do on our side, is we get direct API access into the cell phone carriers. What that means for the client is before their bill cuts, we go in there, we download unbilled usage, so you can add packages, remove packages, add discounts, any kind of special credits they may be missing, and it's completely transparent to the end user. So by the time your bill comes out, you're kind of only paying for what you use, right? Instead of waiting for the rep, right, every 6 months, every year to see where you're at, we're proactively optimize your accounts based on what you have available, along with what others are getting in your industry. They either have the same carrier and or around the same amount of devices. So that's where the expense management, the true expense management comes in, than just doing the typical audits.
So you mentioned API access, right? So you're plugged directly into the carrier, and then I also heard a proactive element, right, where you're looking at things before the invoice, right, basically lands on the desk, as it were, and you're fixing anything that wasn't optimized, making sure it is optimized before the invoice even cuts.
That's correct. And that drives about a 15 to 35% immediate cost savings by your next billing cycle.
So talk to me about how companies typically save money with better expense management.
Well, one, there's accountability because they have unused lines, and a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind. They just see the bill that it's, 10,000 bucks, right? And it's been about that. Um, Picking the right plans. Okay, so there's different ways to buy rate plans. A lot of times the carriers, right, reps have these unlimited plans that, let's just put them on this, you'll be okay, right? Kind of like what going to buy milk at 7-Eleven. You're gonna pay a premium, right? You're gonna pay a premium for it. But if you come in and you come to an expert that knows the ins and outs of all the carrier plans, what discounts, credits, any kind of GPOs, group purchasing organizations, right? Catching billing mistakes, cutting waste, they didn't even know they were there. That's where they're going to see a big chunk of money. So it's going to be an optimization. So getting you down, even on the unlimited plans, there's a couple different unlimited plans that the carriers put out there that cause confusion. Like, wait a minute, I thought it was unlimited. Well, you're not on this unlimited plan. If you go past this certain threshold, your speed slows. And so there's all kinds of ways, right? That
Right.
you can add a hotspot to a plan. So it's really having that inside baseball knowledge, right? Of somebody that this is what we do for a living, right? You're in construction, you build houses, right? You're in law, you help people out there. So it's similar. It's what we come in and it's what we do is to make sure that we get those clients at the lowest cost option because they need the devices, but because they need them, it doesn't mean that they have to overspend. The carriers are doing just fine without any extra help.
They're still going to make money. Yes, I'm pretty sure. So talk to me about, from your experience, what's the number one billing shock you see in an unmanaged mobile environment?
Billing shock, I would say international charges.
Yeah.
So, for instance, it happens all the time. I just had a presentation on Friday to where it was a user calling from the US overseas. Okay. They had a $1,488 bill. Okay. Well, did you know, and it's what I told them, did you know $15 would have gave you an unlimited package. So 15 bucks instead of $1,400. I mean, that's huge right there. And who's going to tell them? It's not like, the reps are going to come back and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, let me save you some money," right? That's kind of, and we're all human beings, right? They're great. You chose your carrier, you signed the agreement, but they're not going to help you manage it. That's where we come in, right? And the bill shock is really around that, like the international piece and or the biggest shocks. Is when I show potential clients that, hey, by the way, you have 1,000 devices. Out of your 1,000 devices, 431 have been sitting for months. And you get this, you get are you kidding me? Where are they? We just ordered another 100. Are you telling me we have 400 sitting? So this is where, that bill shock comes in, is where
Yeah.
once they see that visibility, even more than what the international bill shock can bring.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I've seen when we've worked together, John. Those two things for sure. Like just being able to run that report and say, here's all these devices that aren't being used, and maybe there is a purpose for them, right? Like if they're a software company and they write software that lives on a mobile device, they're going to have all these different devices out there so they can load it and test it, but you aren't necessarily going to see usage, right? Because they're in just like a Wi-Fi environment.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense, but at least right? That
Yeah,
there's
and
20 of those out there in test, test and pre-production. And then, yeah, the international thing, exactly that, right? I've seen that, almost that exact usage, right? Or that exact overage for, one executive who's based in the US, but does travel internationally. It's like attach a $5 plan and, anybody who travels, you won't ever have to worry about it again.
yeah,
So
the Verizon Travel Pass or the AT&T Day Pass, we see that a lot. A lot of, they put packages on because they think the executives are going to travel, but they only travel 1 month, and the rest of the 11 months, a package is sitting there when they could have just put the Verizon, Day Pass that charges them $10 a day, only if they go, right?
yes, yes.
So, a little inside baseball knowledge.
Right. And those are the things you get from an expert. So, how does Wireless Watchdogs help companies find the right rate plans instead of sort of stuffing leftover plans in a drawer?
So as I mentioned, we do manage, well over 1,200 corporations, hundreds and thousands of mobile devices. So we're always looking. We know the ins and outs of the carriers because we have the direct API access. We have service delivery managers that actually get assigned to each company. And those service delivery managers, okay, they meet on a monthly basis. And I sit in these meetings, and what happens there is a lot of mind sharing. So, hey, did you know ABC company that's in finance got this hell of a deal on equipment? Oh, okay. Well, they're in the same industry as one of our other clients, have about the same amount of devices. Let's use that SOC code. SOC code is the system codes in the back end to where we
Mhm.
can put those codes on. And we work directly with the carriers to implement those changes. We actually also help with contract negotiations. So when they go to, get a new contract, we can go with them and or provide all the ammunition that they need. Well, wait a minute. No, we don't want that. We want this discount. Oh, we want this extra rate plan thrown into our mix. So that's where that, expertise comes in, right? So where we come in and find those right rate plans based on usage, right? That's another thing. I had somebody tell me, oh yeah, well, we're the city and we get a $10 rate plan and you're never going to be able to beat that. That's great. No, that's cool. But out of the 1,358 devices, you've had 1,012 that have been sitting for months. So what good is that $10 rate plan? Right? And it's like, oh well, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of it like that. Oh, these are not. So then they start thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking that I got the best deal, right? I got $10 plans, but okay, that's great. But what if you're not using it, right?
You get $10 plan, and 80%
Yeah.
of the phones are inactive, and you don't even need them times $10. That's a lot of money. It's funny how
Yeah,
it adds up.
exactly.
Last question on the expense management piece, and that is, what's one quick win a business could implement this week to trim wireless expenses?
Sure. So here's something that 8 times out of 10 we find insurance. Okay, you don't look at that 1,000-page bill, right? But we do, right? And so we pull out a lot of times when I'm presenting, it's like, wait a minute, you guys have 200 devices and you only have 11 devices on insurance. Why is that? Is there a reason for that? And you're paying 18 bucks a month. No, we shouldn't have insurance. No, we never authorized that. Or you're paying 5.99 for cloud storage that an employee clicked on a button, and all of a sudden the company's now paying $72 a year, right? So you can go and look and see what third-party charges you have. That's really quick. The next one would be the unused devices, to where, wait, let's take a look. I had a company CIO say, wait, how do we have 800 devices when we only have 100 employees? What is this? Like, so the previous IT manager was ordering one device, I'm sorry, three devices per employee. He had a MiFi, he had a tablet, and he had a smartphone. Well, okay, you have a smartphone, we can just tack on a MiFi, I mean,
But,
hotspot plan. Why do we have three devices? Now you're managing way too much, right? So
mhm.
we're able to trim that down. But that's one of the things is like, how is it that we have 800 devices and we're only 100 some employees? Right. So
Yeah.
that's one. So look at your third party charges, your insurance, and then look and see and make sure that your devices are matching up to what you really need to have. And that can all start with that complimentary assessment, right? If you don't want to do the work, we can do it within a couple minutes.
I love it. Thanks, John. Great
Okay.
tips and appreciate the time today.
Bye-bye.